Hello and welcome to the Dad Strength Podcast. I am your host, Richie. Today we're going to get right into it, and we are going to talk about bathing your baby. Now, when your baby is first born, it's going to be quite small. He or she is going to be very limited in movement and not able to support itself. This is one of the scariest things I encountered as a brand new parent, because I was afraid that the water was going to make the baby slippy. And then once she was slippy, I had to hurry up and bathe her, then wash her off, put some soap on her, those whole type of things whenever you want to get your baby nice and clean. And these are just some tips and things that I went through. And then as your baby gets bigger, you're going to have different challenges that arise. You have to deal with the baby moving around, different sized bathtubs and things like that. So when our child was born, she was very small. One of the most alarming things to me is that she couldn't support her head. So every time you carried her, you had to hold the head up and then have your other arm cradled underneath. They do make specialty bathtubs that we had one that was for children, and it included a net that went on top. Now the net let the baby lay down inside of it, kind of like a hammock, and it kept her head up, but it also allowed her to let water run through, and it gave her like a nice little base. So if you have one of these, it's a little bit easier. The other thing that I did was I just took a bunch of towels and I laid them down inside the bathtub. And this is something that you can do if you don't have one of those baby tubs, because the towels can get wet and it kind of creates a little wet base. And I found that the towels kind of held her in place. So, for example, the back of the bathtub, I wouldn't put her anywhere near the faucet, but the back of a bathtub usually has a nice slope to it. So if you roll up 2 towels next to your child and put them on either side and then kind of drape another towel or 2 over top, it will create like a little base. And as long as you don't mind getting the towels wet, you have a couple extra ones on hand, you can add more towels if you want to just create like a little bathtub that kind of props your child up and lets them lay nice and flat in there. And by doing this, you have a nice soft protective cover. So, and I found that the towels were kind of grippy. Once they got wet, it kind of created a place where the child could lay. She could kind of move around, but she wasn't able to like roll out or slide down out of the tub. And if she is sliding or your child's sliding, just roll up another towel and kind of put it under the bottom and put the legs over top of it to kind of hold them in place. And so the first couple weeks, I don't think we bathed her that often. I want to say once a week or so, every couple days. We were always wiping her down with just water. I didn't add soap or anything. And when the baby first comes out, they're going to be covered in blood and other kind of liquids. And our daughter was covered in blood for a couple weeks. It even like had her hair a dark red color. And so whenever she has that color to her, you're going to want to think like, oh, I'm going to have to wash that off. But you don't want to vigorously scrub your child. So I was always just gentle with it. I had a little bit of soap. We had some soap that I think the doctor gave us that we kind of put on there, but I don't think they really recommend it. So we didn't use it that often. We just kind of bathed her with water, kind of like a sponge bath. So you just dab the sponges on her, the wet washcloths. They're not going to get too dirty. She didn't get dirty because she's not able to move around. So generally she was clean. And as she got older, it became a little tougher to bathe her. When she was first born, our child, she really liked the sound of the water. So putting the faucet on would calm her down so she wouldn't cry. And you could run her head under the water, put it down, take the washcloth around and wash her off. And then from there, as she got a little bit bigger, we went ahead and added some soap, really try to get their rolls, because that's where, like, if milk's dribbling down, and under her neck got so red just because of the random stuff that was getting stuck there, or like I think some of the milk. And this really hit home whenever she started to get fed liquid foods. Now with the liquid foods, it would irritate her skin, and so we were always trying to keep that dry. So you would dab it with the washcloth and make sure that you dry it. You don't want that to get wet because that's when the skin starts to rub. So that's another thing. Whenever you're done bathing your baby, go ahead and dry them off. You want to make sure that they're very dry. You don't want to leave them like moist, and this goes the same for whenever you diaper them. So if I had like a wet wipe to change the diaper, I know I talked about diapers last week, you wipe nice and clean. I always dabbed with the diaper a little bit, and now this goes against it if you're putting Desitin on or some type of skin cream. If your child has eczema or something like that, where you have to put the cream, then you might need to lock a little bit of moisture in. But whenever you're bathing them, make sure you definitely dry the areas underneath, like the neck rolls and things like that. From there, that is where we had the issue. Whenever we changed into liquid foods, there was all kind of excess moisture under her neck. So her neck was always breaking out. And when they're born, they have like these little red pimple looking things. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but they said that that was natural. And so that was one of the areas that I kind of was gentle with cleaning because I didn't know if it was bothering her. Once she started to get a little bit older and was able to move, I was able to keep one hand on her chest as I used my other hand to get the washcloth ready, put it up underneath her neck, and you want to make sure that you clean it nice and good. You want to make sure that the soap that you put on her also gets washed off. So that is one of the things that I tried to do, was to spray up underneath her neck. Now we had some of those rubber toys, and the toys were really helpful because it's like a plastic dock, or we had all kind of different sea animals. We had a crab and a shark that you squeeze and let go, and they will fill up with water. And ours had pretty big holes on them. I think we got them at Toys R Us. I don't remember what they were called, but I used those to spray like a little stream of water up under her neck. Our own little mini tub also had its own shower head that came with it, and that is very handy because it sprayed and it wasn't very powerful. That's why I also used the crab, and the crab's a little bit easier to get into tight spaces. It wasn't like the shower head that was attached to the bathtub. I had to move around, and whenever you have one hand on the baby and the tubing gets stuck, it makes it very hard because you don't want to rip out the shower head hoping that the tubing breaks loose, or if it gets wrapped around something, you don't want to pull on it real hard because that might capsize the tub and your baby goes flying. And that is where another thing too is, even on that net, the net gets slippy. So if you have trouble with the net, the hammock net inside your mini tub, go ahead and put a towel down on that. I really find that the towel helps keep your baby in place. You don't want your baby to slip. That's one of the scariest moments. And that was my one big fear that I had with bathing our daughter. I didn't want her to fall around or slip or slide or even hit her head, especially at the very young age when they couldn't even support their own head. So that is one thing that I really focused on. As she became bigger and more mobile, then we moved her out of the mini tub completely, because the mini tub only has so much water in it. And that water in it, as she's splashing around, gets moved out of the tub into our main tub and then goes down the drain. But what happens is the less water that's in the mini plastic tub, the easier it is for her to move around. And so she was slipping that tub all around. More water was getting kicked out. Her legs were getting longer. We had the trouble of trying to get the water to stay inside the tub. And I had a little cup that I used to fill up, so I would put extra water in. And we also had a little whale The whale was a thermometer, and this is another thing that's very handy. It's a rubber plastic thermometer that you put inside the water, and it tells you the temperature of the water. And that is important because you don't want the water too hot or too cold. Too cold, she can get like a hypothermia type state, which you don't want, and you don't want it too hot, because if you have it too hot, then it can burn the child. We always kept ours in the upper 90s. The body temperature normally is like 98.6 degrees, so that is right about where I kept it. I think some baby books vary. They want it a little bit warmer, usually not colder. But I try to keep mine right at the body temperature, and it's very hard to do because the longer you are bathing your child, the colder the water is getting. And so I always kept the whale inside the water, and as I washed her, the temperature would go down. So then I would know, like, hey, it's about time to take her out. Or what I would do is warm some water, put the whale in my little measuring cup, find out, oh, it's a little bit warmer, it's like 100 something. That should warm up the inside tub. Pour that down around the base of our tub, not on top of the baby. I just wanted to mix in extra water, and the extra water gave it that weight to help keep the tub in place. So once she started to get moved from there, I didn't have to worry about keeping the tub in place because we got rid of the tub completely. We started putting down towels again inside the tub. A large tub, you have a couple towels down. Now each time we were finished with the bath, I had to wring out the towels and then hang them up. I usually hung them right over, like inside of the bathtub overnight. And then in the morning, they'd be dry enough that I could then hang up on the rack. If you take them directly out of the tub, they're going to be soaked. And if you try to hang them up, it's going to drip on your floor. You probably don't want that. You don't want to ruin your floor. So I would just kind of spread them out along the tub. And then in the morning, they would usually be dry enough after I wrung them out to hang up even on the shower curtain rod just to let dry. But I put them down. Again, it adds an extra stickiness so that she's not slipping around or he's not slipping around. And once they are in place, then you have a tub environment that's safe. I felt a little bit more secure. There are other things you can get. They have like rubber mats, but I didn't try any of those. I've seen them before and I didn't like them because I think they get slippy as they get wet. I know there are different brands and I can't speak for everyone. So just try different things out. You just want this tub environment to be safe. You want your child to feel safe whenever you are cleaning them. And you want to kind of make it fun. As our daughter got older, she was afraid of the water. And she was fine. It used to soothe her at first. But I think it was just because of the shower head from the mini tub. It used to make a whirring noise. Like a whirring. And she was always afraid of anything that makes noise like that. She's still afraid of like our electric knife if I'm cutting up a pork tenderloin. She's afraid of it, and she's afraid of the sweeper. So I think that's where she's just afraid of that sound. I don't think it was the water as much, but she came to expect it. Like, oh man, here's the tub, and I'm going to have that sound again. So from there, we went right into giving her the full tub. I used buckets of water under the faucet. What I did was I lathered her up, rinsed her off. I changed some of the water out. I let the tub completely drain. And then I used some clean water to rinse her off again right before I took her out. Because I don't like rinsing kids with tub water, especially after you rinse them. And then the dirt is inside the water. And as she got a little bit older and more active, then she was bringing dirt into the tub. So I always drained it before finally rinsing her off. And now our biggest problem as she's 1 year old is to keep her from standing up. So that's what we're looking at doing, is keeping her from standing up, telling her, hey, you have to sit down. Anytime she tried to stand, I hold her hand, let her guide her back down to sit. And now she's able to sit up. It's very easy to clean her. Again, as the baby gets older, you just want to make sure that you're cleaning the rolls around the neck, the arms, the legs. Make sure everything's clean. Whenever you take them out, then you just do your normal routine. We would put the diaper cream on before we put her to bed. We bathed her right before bedtime. We found that it relaxed her and made it easier for her to go to bed. So that was our goal. We kept it a routine. Now we do it 2 or 3 times a week. a little bit more often now that she's more active and she's more prone to getting food stuck on her. We don't give her liquid foods anymore, so she's eating adult meals at 1 year old, or as close to adult as we can make them. So now she might have food stuck to her if it's like a spaghetti sauce or something. Then she's really covered, and then we'll bathe her if she's covered in food. That is a rundown on giving your child a bath. My name is Richie Leahy, and you have been listening to Dad Strength.